Hi, everybody. Welcome to Paul Programs, your spot for learning a little bit more about game mechanics and game design. Today, we're going to talk about some choices. And by choices, I mean we're going to talk about choose your own adventures. Look a little bit into their design, and then talk about how you can basically build a structure for handling choice trees. If you're interested in learning more about game design and specific game mechanics, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget that if you want to see more videos like this, like, subscribe, hit ding dong bell, share with your friends, your family, give it as a Christmas gift. It's fine. I'm okay with this. But again, today we're going to talk about choosing your own adventure. What's a choose your own adventure? Basically, it's a book. It's a book in a way. And gamers may know it as games that have multiple branching paths with diverging storylines, but basically the book works the same way where you read a page and then when you get to the bottom of the page usually, it'll tell you to basically choose one or several different pages to move on to the next part of the plot. And with that, it allowed the possibility for readers to end up in different places with different endings based on different choices made. And you'd even have the ability that some of these different choices would eventually lead into each other at some point. But it was the ability to allow readers to have some kind of interaction as part of the book they're reading and taking part with. And a lot of games have incorporated that into their design with branching endings is one example. Different storylines that have different plot hooks because you chose one way or the other. And just to get an idea, we'll take a look at some games now that make use of this. When it comes to choose your own adventures, there's several different mediums that it takes the form of. The most basic is choose your own adventure books, and there's a large variety of them, and the basic way they work is that you're able to basically choose where you're going to move on next in the book based on options that you're usually offered, like go to the next page or turn to a specific page. The next variety of choose your own adventure style games are still books, but they're more of the role playing game flavor. So you have something like Into the Dungeon, which basically is a solo TTRPG where you have a character sheet and you make choices based on different things and options you're put in, what skills and stats you have, and those will decide what happens to your character next. Very similar to Choose Your Own Adventure books, but with a little more character building flair involved. Choose Your Own Adventure also comes in board game flavor where you can play it with yourself or other players, but basically, it's the same concept as the books, just in board game format where you can take it with you on the go and play with other people as well. And lastly, if we're talking about digital games, there's a large variety of genres like visual novels that feature that choose your own adventure style of gameplay. But one series that stands out to me is basically the Zero Escape games, where the gameplay takes place mostly in escape room style puzzles, but it also features branching choices, which will lead to different puzzles, different stories, different endings. Sometimes you actually have to backtrack through the different paths to unlock other pathways to move forward on. And that's what's really interesting about Choose Your Own Adventure. It's not just locked to a single style type of game, book, or one thing. It's something that can be incorporated into anything you work on. So now that we've seen some examples of how Choose Your Own Adventure works, let's dive into actually designing one with basically the theme of a knight saving a princess, but with a twist. Now that we've taken a look at some games that basically use choose your own adventure mechanics, let's actually talk about how we could actually design our own game using those same choose your own adventure or branching mechanics. First, when you're making a game that has branching points, you really want to plot everything out. You want to make sure you think through all the potential options, where there's crossover, things like that, and lay them out in a way that's easy to map like a tree, basically. In this game, the goal is going to be to basically take a knight through several different decisions that'll allow them to hopefully save the princess from their captor. One of the first choices we can actually provide a player with is, how do they prepare for this? Are they going to hit the gym and train some more to get stronger? Or can they hit the books and get more information that could provide them insight, maybe weaknesses, locations, other allies that may help by hitting the library or looking around town? Then, say you do go this training path, getting stronger, you find the princess and her captor, and it happens to be a dragon. Well, what if this dragon's too strong for the knight to basically handle? Then from there, you have the option to try harder maybe, or distract while the princess comes up with a plan to take out the dragon herself. And with that, you may want to subvert expectations, and it's actually the princess is the one who has the plan that's able to save the day. Otherwise, trying harder just leads to a bad end. With branching games like this, you can basically take things that may not be expected and treat them differently. That's the nice part about these style of games. You don't really have a direct path to just one specific ending. A good example of this is the Mass Effect titles, where any choice you make throughout the franchise will have a lingering impact. And that's just one of the ways you can think about how you can design a branching game, basically. Wow, what a twist. I mean, right? But with that said, we have to talk about some code stuff now, and we're going to talk about two things that can help you create your own branching story. One is a temporary solution, and the other is a little more permanent. And we'll start off with switch case, which is our more limited one, and then we'll dive deeper into how you can build something a little more robust for handling branching stories in games. For the coders out there, you may be wondering, what tools do we have to actually build out our branching games? And usually what would come to mind when thinking about at least simple choices and branches would be a switch node. And what this does is you're able to put a variable in, and based on the different states it could have or values it can have, you can create different cases, and based on those cases, when it hits that value, it'll do what it says under it. So if you go a middle route in a fork in a road, well, we'll let the player know they went down the middle and then leave the switch. But something like this is pretty limited in what you can do with it. Instead, we want to think in a more creative manner. And in that case, you want to build something more custom that's going to work for your game. And in that case, we can talk about creating a custom class that is for story nodes. And the way you can have it work is there may be some actions, values, and other things that you'll have in your story node that relate to that portion of the game, but what you'll also have is a grouping of what the next nodes that the current node can reach are. This will allow you to branch out in different ways and basically take the player down different nodes, and then those nodes may have their own actions with their own next nodes, and so on and so forth. Another one we could have is previous node, in case there's something we need from the moment before. If we need to know how things came together in the story up to that point, we may need to grab certain values from the previous node. And then, say you hit a point where there are no more story nodes, you're at the end of that path, then you want to have something that's a check that would check to see, hey, are there any nodes still left? If not, well, it's going to tell you there isn't. And at that point, you've reached the end of this branch. And then you can decide what you want to do from there. Do you want the player to have the ability to traverse backwards and go see other parts of the story, maybe choose different options? Or do you want to just end it there, give them some credits, and then they can start the game over, maybe going different routes? It's really up to you as the developer how you want to handle it. But This is just a tool that'll make it easier to handle branching nodes in a way. All right, and that's our look at how you can basically design, build out, and code your own mechanics and stuff you need for making a choose your own adventure. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will catch you all next time.